The London Asylum for the Insane, located here at 850 Highbury Avenue, first opened its doors in 1870. It then remained in operations for 138 years before becoming the Regional Mental Health Care Centre, which then closed its doors in 2014.
But the memory of this historic institution is at risk of being lost. Many Londoners don't even know it exists, let alone its importance to the history of our city and to the history of mental health treatment.
In 1869, the provincial legislature appropriated $100,000 to purchase 200 acres of land on which to build the London Asylum for the Insane. This development was precedented by a larger shift in the Western world towards a belief in proper institutions for the care and housing of the mentally ill. Older Ontario asylums at Fort Malden and Orillia were closed and replaced by this facility in London. The asylum's first superintendent was Dr. Henry Landor. He was an advocate for compassionate care for patients in a peaceful, rural environment. However, prior to the 1850s, some methods employed in the care for the mentally ill are quite disturbing.
The public's identity for the mentally ill was a lot of people were afraid of anyone that was different. So anyone that was diseased or criminal or crazy, they seemed to be segregated from society.
Some physical reminders of the treatment methods, such as hand restraints, at first seemed shocking. However, these were actually used with the safety of the patients and staff in mind. Yet there are some artifacts that reveal even good intentions could manifest themselves in ways that seem cruel to modern eye. This cage is perhaps the most unsettling reminder of that. A wooden crate, used to lock patients in for transportation to and from the asylum.
Is this humane treatment? Many people would say it is not. So the sense of restraints came under scrutiny by a lot of people by saying that this is no way helping long-term the effects, that you're simply just housing them, using them, treating them like animals, if you will.
Dr. Richard Maurice Buck, who inherited the position of superintendent from Landor in 1876, built upon the development of compassionate care towards the patients. Moving away from the use of restraints, Buck believed it was his duty to help cure the patients, rather than simply house them. Moral therapy is the belief that Victorian social norms and ethics should be used as a treatment for the mentally ill. Elements include using labor, athletics, music, theater, and religion to give structure, purpose, and responsibility to the lives of the patients. Buck's 25-year tenure as superintendent is central to understanding the implementation of moral therapy at the asylum.
Talks about let's treat these people with more humane actions and therapy. Let's talk about kindness. Let's talk about arts. Let's talk about stimulating more positive ways instead of not treating them as people. And let's engage with them.
Yet for all of Dr. Buck's reforms and progress, he still held questionable beliefs about the causes of mental illness in women.
Prior to this time, there was the idea of the wandering womb or the wandering uterus, the fact that the uterus could sort of move around in the body, which it can't, but and affect other organs if it was in the wrong place. By removing it, it was the key to a lot of mental health issues.
Buck believed there was an intimate connection between a woman's biology and her mental well-being. As a solution to the wandering womb theory, Buck and his surgeons implemented the use of gynecological surgeries. There was a separate building on site designated specifically for surgeries. It was here where approximately 200 women had their uteri and ovaries removed.
Women who were designated insane at the time, it's hard to know, were they really insane? Did they have mental health issues? Or did they have debilitating gynecological pain? In which case the removal of your uterus might well solve your problem.
The history of the asylum is in some areas quite controversial, especially considering the darker elements of Victorian perception of people they labeled as lunatics and degenerates.
But even controversial history deserves to be preserved.
The remaining artifacts from the London Asylum for the Insane are being stored at Museum London, though with no plans for a permanent exhibit. All of the surviving documents are housed at the Western Archives and Research Centre. The future of the asylum site itself is less certain.
Unfortunately, the site has fallen into architectural disrepair. To make matters worse, the government has no plans for restoration. Instead, they plan to sell these historic 200 acres to the highest bidder.
We have a responsibility to remember, not only to ourselves or even to posterity, but also to the patients who lived here. This is their story as well.